Hello, how's it going, guys? This is Dodge and Fuski. Today we're going to be talking, it's a bit of a clickbaity title, I know, so I apologise for that. But top 5, according to us, mistakes that we could think of that beginner producers make. So we're going to start off with a pretty common one that I think everyone's experienced, and that is getting frustrated when you're not getting results.
Yeah. For sure. I think it's very easy to lose hope early on because it can take quite a bit of effort to get the results you think you should be able to be getting.
Yeah, I think particularly in today's climate, a lot of people might start making music because they want to be like a successful DJ, or they want to be this, and they think, oh, if I really grind, in like a year's time I can this. And like the reality of it is, like, it is quicker these days. It took us 7 years from when we started making music, well, longer for you, but 7 years from when we started really producing, trying to make it, until we got our first big label deal, which was being picked up by Never Say Die. That was like the first really big.
Yeah.
Oh, there was other stuff. I mean, I don't want to belittle other stuff, but like in terms of like a real big moment for us, where like stuff, we started getting booking agent and loads of shows coming in. That was when I considered like the first point that we really had got to where we were trying to get to. Barely Alive, I think they'd started about 5 years before they started kind of touring. Mm-hmm. But like these days, I think people have very unrealistic ideas, and that's only going to lead to frustration. Realistically, I think if you're not enjoying learning, making music, and you're not getting obsessed with like really enjoying every moment of it and discovering even how to make the most basic sounds and just make a loop that you made yourself, you're kind of setting yourself up for a lot of frustration.
Yeah. Point number 2 would be ignoring the low end of mixes and not giving things enough space at the bottom end of the frequency spectrum.
Yeah, I remember this is something when we started making music in the early days. I remember especially with things like the early drum and bass tunes we used to make. I remember making like all the mix down sounding pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like when we were making the intros, I was like, yeah, this sounds awesome. And as soon as it would get to the drop, it kind of sounded like a mess.
Yeah.
I didn't know why. Like now, we would hear it and be like, oh, well, the sub and the kick are muddling with each other and they can't breathe. But like back then, it was just like, this just sounds like a mess, and I don't know why.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, paying close attention to kick drums and bass lines and subs and stuff, like you just gotta give that as much space as the rest of your mix, really, to make sure that everything's cutting through, because they're big, long wavelengths, they take time to sort of play, don't they? So you just got to make sure that they have the space that they need, more so than perhaps other frequencies.
Definitely. I mean, we've done a tutorial which should be up on the Disciple YouTube as well about this, particularly low frequencies. But yeah, I always just remember not really knowing why that was. That's one thing I remember when we were beginners, or early on anyway. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is about buying stuff you don't need and getting kind of obsessed with people, not maybe stuff that you don't need, but I remember when at the beginning we were really obsessed with, what monitors does Noisia have and stuff like that.
It's very easy to pick up a magazine, flick through the pages, see all this really flash kit, kind of get, it looks like it should help your production, and when in reality, it's lots of people have got very far on very small amounts of kit. Yeah,
the amount of times that I've seen people set ups and they'll have $1.5 grand worth of monitors in a completely untreated room, where the amount of noise back, you could have $10,000 monitors in there and it would be a worse monitoring environment than some $200 Behringers in a decently treated room.
For sure.
So buying kit is definitely, people get kind of, what are the pros using? What should we use on this? Coan Sound, I remember when we did the tours years ago, I always used to talk about how Will was using these like 25 quid, so like $35 like gaming headphones to do all of the mix downs on. Like if you can do it on that, you do not need expensive monitors. Like obviously, don't get me wrong, expensive monitors are nice, they definitely make it easier. Like we don't have crazy monitors here, we have some nice Dynaudios and there's a sub under there as well, but you could get away without that.
It reminds me of when I was learning to play guitar, and I'm pretty sure my teacher at the time said, if you can pick up £100 guitar, learn how to play it well, then those skills will transfer so easily onto higher end equipment, because if you can master something that's basically not great, but you can make that sound good, then it's going to be very easy to get good results on much higher end kit.
So to kind of refine this down, if you are starting out now, what I would recommend you do is get yourself pretty much any computer will work these days. Even the most basic gaming laptop will easily be powerful enough to run Ableton or whatever you want to run. Get yourself some decent headphones. I probably wouldn't recommend going much under sort of $50 or $60, but like anything above that should be good. There's plenty of good brands like Audio Technica. Like Barely Alive don't use very expensive headphones. They never have. They've been like these $100 Audio Technica headphones.
And listen to good sounding music on those headphones or whatever monitors you pick, and just learn them and reference stuff on them and reference your tracks on them, and you can kind of pick it up from there, really. Yeah,
or if you really want speakers, get like the best monitors that you can afford, but like make sure that you're not going to be letting them down by using them in your kitchen or somewhere with a lot of reverb. Like we have a kind of a reasonably decent treated kind of home studio, but if you get some mattresses or some really heavy felt curtains, I cannot state how important that is to kind of make sure your room sounds dead. So when you click your fingers, it's not like a reverb. You want it to be like dead.
And the thing with those sorts of tips is that sort of stuff can be very cheap from places like, well, I was going to say Gumtree, but I guess Craigslist in America. Or even the side of the friggin' road, you could probably find something, couldn't you? So.
Yeah, I mean, curtains and duvets are probably the cheapest way, and just like staple them to the walls of your room. Literally, just go and get some heavy
from a charity shop and
stick them to the walls, and that will make a big difference. Yeah, that will make way more difference than buying more expensive monitors.
Or buying like really expensive acoustic foam. Do you know what I mean? Like you can get similarly good results from.
Well, you need a lot of mass as well, so sometimes that Auralex, the thinner stuff, isn't really going to do much anyway.
Yeah, and you get better results from an old mattress.
Yeah, so, you probably would actually, in some cases.
So I mean, that's a pretty good one. Like, don't feel like you need to have loads of money to buy.
You could definitely make top tier music on $500 worth of equipment. Yeah. Definitely, especially if you bought stuff secondhand. Mm-hmm. Number 4 is kind of, I guess, plugins in a chain that don't really make sense or are counteracting each other. I remember a lot of this, and particularly when sometimes some friends from back home, might send me an Ableton project or something to have a look at, and sometimes you'll see someone like boosting the high end and then cutting the high end.
Yeah, like further down the plugin chain.
Which just, it's like adding 4 and then deducting 4. Stuff like that, stuff where people are kind of fiddling. Now, like, we're not trying to discourage people experimenting, but I think, this talks about the mistakes people make. So a lot of the time you might have plugins that are kind of fighting against doing opposite things. So I guess the thing is really, it's just trying to understand what exactly you're doing in a chain. Even if you're experimenting, try to like learn what it is that it's doing. So you kind of, there's some
everything
sense
has a
to
purpose to what you're putting on there. You're not just sticking it on kind of thing. Yeah. So exactly.
Just chucking more stuff in a chain is usually going to make it sound worse. Yeah. So depending on what you're going for, obviously, there's no right and wrongs to music. I think that's something we need to emphasize throughout all of the tutorials we're doing. We always used to as well, is there is no definitive do this, don't that. I guess that's a bonus tip thrown in. There is no definitive do this, do that. Yeah. But as a general guidance,
for sure,
try to at least kind of understand what you've got going on in your
process. And if you find yourself maybe sticking on an EQ and boosting some frequencies that on a longish chain, we're all human. We might have forgotten that actually you might have cut that before without realizing it. So it might be worth
better to go back
and check and see whether or not you've actually already done that adjustment in the opposite direction on an EQ, for instance, and save yourself adding another plugin on the end when actually it might already be there. So I will put my hand up and say I've definitely done that before.
Oh yeah, so. This is the thing. I mean, we're talking about mistakes beginners make. Everyone was a beginner at some point. Exactly. This is definitely all mistakes we've made. Exactly. All of these.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. I think a really common thing that I've witnessed a lot from people asking questions on forums, and me as well doing this, and you see this with all kinds of stuff, is like obsessing about what is it the pro's using, thinking that you're missing some plugin or there's some secret that you're missing that's going wrong. This is something people see time and time again. It's like, I remember thinking at the beginning, I was like, we must be using the wrong EQ. Like, I listened to Noise's tune and their EQing sounds way better than ours. We just must be using a shit EQ.
It's the wrong version, exactly.
Yeah, and the truth is, in not every situation, but in a lot of situations, especially if you're comparing different plugins of the same type. Like, I'm not saying that you could, be using an EQ to make a reverb or something, but what I'm saying is, generally speaking, the vast majority of the problems are the use of the plugin and not the plugin itself. I think, I know people like incredible producers that use entirely Ableton stock plugins. Like Culprit's a good example.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. And just not thinking that you're missing out on something, and actually, and making the absolute most of those plugins as well is important, and ties into that, whereby thinking that more and more plugins is going to somehow enable you to have like that sound or whatever, when in reality, you know, you can get very, like you just said, very good results from a lot of the inbuilt effects in most DAWs these days. But anyway, so to wrap up, you just don't have to worry. There isn't a secret to it. There is, you know, there isn't some
9 times out of 10 anyway. There isn't going to be some like kind of,
Yeah.
you know, holy grail thing that you just haven't managed to find on the internet yet. It's going to be more just execution than anything else.
And just practice with those plugins that you've got and learn how to get the most out of those, and don't feel like you haven't got the one thing. Like you've got everything you need. You just need to practice and get good.
Most
at it.
likely, as long as you have a computer.
Yeah. yeah. I mean,
if you're trying to make dubstep on a xylophone, you might be barking up the wrong tree. But I think, yeah, what we're getting at here is just get like something fairly industry standard like Ableton and just learn the stock plugins, something like that. You know, watch YouTube tutorials and just don't expect.
Our YouTube tutorials.
Yes, watch our ones on repeat so we get all of the advertising money. But generally speaking, you're just going to need a lot of time to be putting. I mean, we were when we were like really grinding in the early days. I mean, I would say probably 30 hours a week.
Oh, easily.
Probably 30, maybe 40 a week.
It was a full-time job, basically, just learning how to produce.
Yeah, and our tunes were fucking terrible at that point.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully,
especially by today's
more talented people than we were at that time these days. So hopefully, you know, I think
it is quicker these days because we didn't have YouTube tutorials to learn from really back then. It was like we had some sample packs and kind of a few interviews at best.
Yeah,
that was really all we had to go on.
But yeah.
So yeah, anyway guys, hopefully that's been a bit useful. You know, these are certainly some mistakes that we made, and you know, hopefully at the very least this will be some kind of reassurance to you guys who may resonate, you know, with some of the things we said. Thanks for watching as always. Let us know in the comments below any tips you want us or any of the other guys on Disciple to cover, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Where the fuck has Fox gone? He's supposed to be helping me making this like and subscribe video. Stan?
Yep.
Stan? What the fuck? He was right here.
Like and subscribe.
Oh, something completely.